The following day dawned with the promise of revelations, as I arrived at the residence of my enigmatic client as planned. To my surprise, the house stood unassuming amidst the peaceful street, its exterior blending seamlessly with the neighboring dwellings. No grandeur or ostentation marked its presence, disguising the secrets that lay within its unassuming facade. As I crossed the threshold, a gentle wave of tranquility washed over me, permeating the air with a soothing embrace. The interior welcomed me with open arms, a haven of warmth and serenity. The living room unfolded before my eyes, bathed in natural light that streamed through the expansive windows. Its spaciousness enveloped me, the simple yet tasteful furnishings emanating an understated elegance. Nestled in a corner, a fabric sofa beckoned me to sink into its plush embrace, while the adjacent dining room awaited with a perfectly set square table adorned with delicate porcelain and gleaming silverware. The dining chairs stood in meticulous alignment, a testament to the order and harmony that defined this abode. Within these walls, a profound sense of familial intimacy permeated every nook and cranny, painting a stark contrast to the opulent opulence of the previous day's encounter. The client, a young man in the prime of his 20s, met my gaze with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. He revealed that he was not a bloodline member of the influential family, instead having been consigned to the confines of an orphanage during his formative years. The revelation of his true heritage came as a clandestine revelation, orchestrated by a shadowy figure who had chosen to disclose the truth in secrecy. While seemingly innocuous at first glance, it was the client's tender age that seized my attention. Unlike the ill-fated infants who had succumbed to the curse's grip, he had emerged unscathed, spared from the clutches of this malevolent enchantment. I speculated, pondering the reasons behind this anomaly. Was it due to his upbringing outside the gilded walls of the mansion, rendering him impervious to the curse's effects? Or could it be that he had entered this world prior to the curse's sinister inception, a fortunate soul untouched by its venomous touch? The mysteries that unfurled before me stirred my curiosity, stoking the flames of determination that burned within my soul. The threads of destiny had woven an intricate tapestry, entwining the lives of this young man and the cursed family in a dance of enigmatic purpose. I resolved to unravel these secrets, embarking on a relentless pursuit that would untangle the web of darkness veiling the truth. He revealed to me some astonishing truths. It turned out that the family had experienced internal strife due to disputes over inheritance, which led to the suicide of one of its members. However, in order to uphold the family's reputation as local nobility, they suppressed the incident and kept it hidden from the public eye. The deceased member had placed a curse on the family with their own life, and their ghost had remained within the mansion. I believe that the scroll I found was one of the sources of the curse, and yesterday's episode of sleep paralysis was a warning from the restless spirit. I was shocked by these revelations. The curse afflicting this family did not originate from the rituals of a cult but rather from the dark events that occurred within the family itself. Even the cult ritual, as it turned out, was an attempt to exorcise the curse, albeit futile. It was clear that seeking the assistance of professional practitioners like us was more effective than relying on those charlatans who merely recited religious texts that ghosts couldn't comprehend. These discoveries further emphasized that breaking the curse was not simply a matter of performing an exorcism ritual but required communication with the spirits to address the underlying issues at hand. The next day, I returned to the mansion, ready to commence the exorcism. Faced with the lingering ghost that haunted the family, my intention was to try and alleviate its resentment, understand its story, or uncover the truth on its behalf. I locked myself in the study of the mansion, as it was the place where the curse was most potent. Before entering the study, I left my protective amulets and other sacred items outside, signifying that I had no defensive capabilities against the spirit's attacks and also to convey that I had no intention of harming it. Inside the room, I lit numerous candles and drew a protective circle on the floor, then sat within it, speaking in a gentle yet firm voice to communicate my intentions to the ghost. As I sat within the circle, the air inside the room became thick with tension, and a sense of unease began to permeate my body. It was as if the spirit was aware of my presence and was watching my every move. The candles flickered and danced, casting eerie shadows on the walls, and I could feel a cold breeze brush past my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Despite the discomfort, I continued to speak calmly, imploring the spirit to communicate with me and share its story. At first, there was only silence, and I wondered if my efforts were futile. But then, I felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere, as if the ghost was slowly beginning to open up to me. A faint whisper seemed to float on the air, and I strained to catch its meaning. As I listened carefully, the whisper grew stronger, and soon I was able to discern the words being spoken. They were filled with sadness, regret, and a deep sense of longing. It was clear to me that this was not a malevolent spirit but rather a soul in pain, trapped in the physical realm with unfinished business. I spoke soothingly to the ghost, offering empathy and understanding, and gradually, it began to reveal more about its story. To my surprise, she was a female ghost, and even more surprisingly, she gave me a sense of familiarity. She began to narrate the events that took place 20 years ago. As the ghost's sorrowful tale unfolded, the study seemed to echo with the weight of her anguish. The room itself appeared to transform, taking on a somber atmosphere that mirrored the tragic events that had transpired within its walls. Shadows danced along the bookshelves, casting elongated figures that resembled twisted specters. I could almost feel the raw emotions coursing through the air, a heavy mix of heartbreak, betrayal, and vengeance. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the tear-stained pages of the scroll, accentuating the deep crimson of the blood-written text. Its ancient ink seemed to pulse with the ghost's immeasurable pain, each stroke a testament to the intensity of her suffering. As I listened to her story, my heart grew heavy with empathy, understanding the depth of her longing for justice and her desire to protect her child. The room itself seemed to share in her anguish, the very walls appearing to mourn the tragedy that had unfolded within them. She was originally the eldest daughter of the family, incredibly beautiful and the pride of the clan. However, an irreversible mistake changed her destiny. She fell in love with a male actor from a traveling troupe that passed through town. Unfortunately, after a brief stay, the man left with the troupe. Tragically, their love affair resulted in her pregnancy, and she couldn't bear to abandon the child that was flesh of her own flesh, so she decided to give birth to the baby. However, the existence of this child became a source of conflict within the family. Other members, driven by their own interests and inheritance, grew jealous of her and conspired to expel her from the family. While their plot failed, they succeeded in depriving her of the first inheritance right. But their cruelty didn't stop there. They heartlessly took the life of her child, plunging her into a deep abyss of despair and agony. Unable to bear such immense pain, she ultimately ended her own life in the study of the house, leaving behind the scroll I had discovered. In her final moments, she vowed to curse the family, preventing them from ever having new life, until the family perished. Her curse carried boundless anger and suffering, making it impossible to be dispelled through conventional exorcism methods. After hearing this story, a sudden realization flashed through my mind, providing a way to understand the truth and resolve this matter. I began to understand why she felt familiar, and it wasn't because she was a ghost, but because she was the lost son of the young man I had encountered yesterday. To confirm my hypothesis, I asked her to wait for a moment and stepped outside the mansion. I started questioning the family members, including the butler, servants, and all the staff working in the estate. I searched for clues, striving to uncover the truth of the matter. Finally, from the mouth of an elderly butler, I found confirmation of my speculation. Initially, the other family members had ordered the butler to kill the baby, but his compassionate heart led him to make a different choice. He chose to send the child to an orphanage, protecting his life. And that mysterious client who maintained secret contact with the young man was none other than the butler. He had secretly kept in touch with the young man. I expressed my gratitude for the butler's kindness and compassion, as his actions allowed a bloodline to continue. Now, I knew I had to make the family aware of the truth, and I brought the young man to the mansion, hoping to unravel this mysterious curse. As I witnessed her meeting with the young man, there seemed to be a peculiar magnetism between them. They embraced each other, as if conveying deep emotions. I silently observed until her form gradually became faint, ultimately vanishing into the air. At the same time, I could sense that the curse seemed to dissipate. Now, I needed to step out of the mansion and inform the family members of the truth. I gathered them together and recounted everything I had experienced, revealing the conspiracies and lies within the family. They looked at each other in shock, profoundly affected by my words. After confirming my payment, I decided to leave the family behind for now. I knew it was up to them to handle what comes next. Perhaps the young man would become the next head of the family, inheriting everything that came with the mansion. Perhaps he would seek justice and ensure those responsible for his mother's death faced legal consequences. But none of that was my concern anymore. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing and scary stories. Also, please click the like button to support our program. If you want to submit your own story, please send it to our address at midnightwhisper@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.